I'm going to pray for us.
One, get everyone's attention.
Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you that we're all here, and thank you that we've come to the end of another semester. Father, I pray that you would bless our summer plans. Pray that our summer would glorify you, it would be honoring to you, and that we would grow closer to you, and that we would have a blast, that we'd have tons and tons of joy throughout the summer, all in gratitude to how you take care of us. Pray for our future plans coming up next year, and with people being nervous about what they're going to do with their life, and whether it be school or jobs or whatever it is. I just pray, Father, that you give us all peace about what you have for us. Even though we don't know what the future holds, we can trust you, because you are absolute Lord of everything, and nothing happens to us without you allowing it to happen. We love you, Father. Pray that you bless our time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
1 Timothy chapter 2, starting in verse 9. Before I was so excited to be interrupted by a wonderful person. Did you see that? Save.
Sarcasm, brother.
All right, verse 9 of chapter 2 of the 1 Timothy. I also want women to dress modestly, with decency and propriety, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or expensive clothes, but with good deeds, appropriate for women who profess to worship God. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. All right. Now, before you ladies start throwing things at me.
Okay.
Okay, so what are some things that we learned? What are some of the big conclusions we came to on Tuesday? As far as women's roles, what are the things we learned about women from Tuesday? You all had a sheet that I gave to you. Maybe if you're good students and you love the Lord, you actually brought that back with you.
I wasn't here. Can I have one?
I still have mine. I have mine.
Okay, so let's look at, here's what we're going to do. I went and I grabbed some big verses, okay? So, women, here's some things some conclusions we came to. Women are supposed to bear children, right? Women are just childbearing. That's what they do. They just have babies. That's all they're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Titus 2, verses 3 through 5. We find that older women likewise are supposed to be reverent in their behavior, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. So stop all your drinking, ladies. But they are to teach what is good, and so train the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled. Have some stinking self-control, women. Be pure, work at home, kind, submissive to their own husbands, so that what?
The Bible will be true, respected.
Very good, Amy. So that the word of God will not be reviled. 1 Peter 3:1. Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won how?
Through submission. You're being
Ooh! Mine's related. Got a tick. Alright, yes, wives are to behave in such a way, their submission is supposed to be so amazing for their husbands, that their husbands are moved by how their wives behave. Very good.
Sorry.
Oh, you.
Don't be sorry, you were
Typical female. Do you see that, everyone?
Hey,
I didn't see nothing.
You're about to
All
get
right.
something thrown at you.
I was editing puppies.
You were visiting puppies?
Puppies in the library. Let's go.
Oh.
Field trip.
All right. Okay, so Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. There we learn what? We're both created in the image of God. There are ways in which we are equal. We are equal how? What?
Equal value.
There you go. We are equal in value, but not equal in role. Okay. All right. So equal in value, not equal in role. Our roles are not the same. Our roles do not equate with each other. Okay. Let's see. Ooh. Do we remember how Jesus allowed, what was so significant? Excuse me, females. Hey.
Hey, for horses, grass super.
I'm the only female.
Thank you for being reverent. Take a lesson.
Oh, Megan.
Good job, Megan. Thank you for being reverent.
You're welcome.
Okay. So what was significant about the fact that Jesus visited Mary and Martha and Mary sat and listened to him? What was significant about that? It was significant.
It was more relational.
Jesus was more willing to teach women as
Yes. Amy. Come on, you got the answer, Amy.
That was pretty much the same thing David said, like, more like it was, before it wasn't okay for women to have a rabbi or to be taught by a teacher.
Yes. So in that culture, rabbis, such as Jesus, would not sit in front of a bunch of women and allow them to glean from their teaching. Only men would sit at the rabbi's feet, but Jesus allowed women to sit at his feet as he taught. So, is that degrading to women, or does that elevate the status of women? Indeed. Okay. Who's the first person that Jesus appeared to after the resurrection?
Mary. Mary and Mark.
Yep. Mary Magdalene. Is that significant?
Yes.
Why is that significant?
She's a woman.
It's true though.
Anytime there's a woman, it's significant.
It's true.
Because we are
That is true.
darn precious.
Oh, boom.
Okay, so why is it significant that Jesus would show up in front of a woman first?
To elevate her
Miss.
status.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Totally guessed on that.
Women's testimony in the court of law in that day and age.
Women to be silent.
Woman's testimony was not anywhere near as valued in that day and age as a man's testimony. So the fact that Jesus would be willing to show up to a female first is saying,
Oh, which is the answer to the question.
Nathan,
Just the one use the same, like this, no substitutions.
bingo. Okay. Alright, so let's go. Alright, let's say what does the word submission mean?
Yep. Good work, Elena.
When you do what your husband says, without
Does-
any conflict.
Okay, so obedience.
Yeah.
Okay, obedience, there's a connotation of obedience, sure. What does it not mean? Anybody want to say what submission does not mean?
Being lower than?
Good.
Being belittled.
Good.
Bullied, being bullied.
Good. Does not mean any of those things. Very good.
Also doesn't mean chicken.
Chicken?
It
Chicken.
can mean anything.
It also does not mean clock. Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I had coffee.
Allow me to. I want to give you guys a good, what I think is the best short little definition of what submission is. Okay. And it is a disposition to yield. A disposition to yield. It doesn't mean you are less than. It doesn't mean you're stupider than. It doesn't mean you are less capable than. It just means you have a disposition to yield. To let the other lead. To let the other have their way. To let the other be of more importance. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, in Ephesians 5, before Paul says, husbands, submit to your wives, before he says that, he says, everyone should submit to each other. So, when he says, wives, submit to your husbands, that is different than when he says everyone should submit to each other. Right? How is it different? What's the difference between these two? I could have made it. That was gaping.
I would have doubt you could have made it. I doubt that.
Alright. Okay, well, wives, submit to your husbands is different than we submit to each other. I declare bankruptcy! Okay. You can't just say it, you have to declare it. Okay. When it says wives submit to your husbands, it means wives have a disposition to yield to your husbands. When it says everyone should submit to each other, it means that everyone has the disposition to yield to each other.
So that means equality originally.
Here, it means everyone is equal. Here, it's like Philippians 2. Each of you should think of others as more important than you. Everyone should always do that. Here, this is only speaking of roles. Here, has nothing to do with roles. Okay? Has nothing to do with roles. This is just simply loving your neighbor. Right, Nick? Okay. Questions here? Confused? Just more silence? Okay. Alright. So, when you say that a wife, a wife is supposed to submit, it said, Ephesians 5 says, wives submit to your husbands in everything. Now, why do they submit to their husbands in everything? Out of for. Very good. She has a disposition to yield. Is the disposition to yield out of reverence for because her husband deserves it? Or is her disposition to yield to her husband because Christ deserves it.
Because Christ deserves it.
Bingo. It is not, wives all the time are like, why should I submit to that jerk? He doesn't treat me well. He doesn't deserve for me to respect him. How dare the Bible tell me to respect my husband? Okay, it's not about your husband deserving it. It's about Jesus deserving it. You're not doing it because your husband deserves it. You're doing it because Jesus.
Even though your husband may not deserve it, you're doing it for Jesus.
Bingo. When it says husbands love your wives, husbands are like, why in the world should I love that disrespectful, irreverent, nasty, gossiping, nagging wife of mine? Why should I love that? She doesn't deserve it. It's not about deserving it. It's because Jesus deserves it. Okay. So, which begs the question, ladies and gentlemen, if wives are submit to their husbands in everything out of reverence for Christ, does that mean they submit to their husbands when their husbands are telling them they ought to sin?
Wait, can you repeat the question again?
Huh?
Repeat the question again.
If wives are supposed to submit to their husbands in everything out of reverence for Christ, does that mean if their husband's leading them into sin, that their wife says, okay, we'll sin?
Question, does she
Yes.
know that it's a sin?
Ooh.
Yes, she knows it's a sin.
Then I would say no.
Wait, why is he leading her to sin?
Yes.
Because he's a
not
jerk.
doing his job right. He's not doing his job right. He's being a jerk. Yeah. So, does a wife submit to her husband when he says, I need you to sin?
No.
No,
Yes.
No?
I don't
Yes.
think so.
No?
No.
No? How many say no?
I say no.
How many say yes? How many are too chicken?
I only raised my hand.
There was a bunch of people who didn't raise their hands.
I
Alright.
only raised my hand. I said no.
Thank you, Elena. If it is out of reverence for Christ, this is what is supreme. You don't obey your husband, he's not Jesus. Jesus says do it, you do it. If your husband is saying, hey, I'd like to engage in a sin with you, you say, sorry, sugar, much love to you. I have a disposition to yield to you in your leadership, and I long to yield to your leadership, but this right here is irreverent for Christ. This right here is going to defame the name of my Lord, and so I cannot do that. Make sense? But you can do that and still maintain a disposition to yield. See what I'm saying? I long to yield. I want to yield. I want to follow your leadership. But in this specific way, I can't do that because that's sin. Make sense?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Next question. If a husband is to lead his wife as Christ leads the church, if he is to be the head of his wife as Christ is the head of the church, then does that mean that she is supposed to be micromanaged? Does that mean that he gets to say every little detail? Honey, this is what you're going to wear today. Honey, this is the music you're going to listen to. Honey, these are the dishes you're going to do. Honey, these are the
kids you're gonna have.
the kids you're going to have. The job you're going to have. Who you're going to talk to. Who you're not going to talk to. Is that what being a husband is?
No.
No.
Yes. No.
I hope not.
Yeah,
You hope not.
So, tell me why.
Because it's more controlling,
Okay?
which can lead to something more serious.
Okay. Why is controlling bad?
The bullying. It's no
Wouldn't that-
longer love.
Can that lead you
Is it bullying if the wife has a disposition to yield? She wants to yield, she wants to do whatever you say. If you want me to wear that, I have a disposition to yield.
I just lost my train of thought, no way. Sorry.
I just think it would be so weird if Christ is the head of the church and we were to, like, if, in the same way husband would do that to the wife, and then if Christ would do that to the husband, I think it would be, ridiculous.
Bingo. Bingo.
What was his name?
What about head coverings? And also.
Wait, why is there two stores now?
That one's for David,
Who's
because
the other one then?
the other one was, what was the other one for? I don't remember.
Me with Destiny's Child.
Oh,
What?
and then you said good things about it. Oh.
Bible.
What?
Said good things about Beyonce.
Yeah, even
And
worse.
Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child. Oh man,
Probably the
Beyonce
big one.
is one of the biggest problems with our culture.
Really? Wait,
Yes.
why?
I'm just saying that to
Don't even get me started. Don't get me started. We're talking about this. You talk about the opposite of this, ladies and gentlemen. Beyonce is the opposite of this.
Really?
There's probably a class on the other side there.
Calm down,
Whoa.
Murray.
Okay,
Calm down, Mr. Murray. Whoa.
No attack to me out.
I was gonna say calm down, Dr.
Okay, alright. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know where I stood with Beyonce in case you didn't know.
Okay, Beyonce.
Alright.
Confused about it.
Okay.
All the single ladies.
Okay, alright. You have a question about head covering, Jamie?
yeah, because isn't that policy? They have to dress a certain way. Like, they can't braid their hair or wear jewelry. Those are pretty controlling things.
Let's talk about this.
But does it really say you can't? Doesn't it say
Allow me to read
Yeah.
the
that
passage.
might be better?
Allow me to read the passage that Amy is referring to. The one we read a little bit ago. 1 Timothy 2, starting in verse 9. I want women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. Okay? But with good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God. So, just right there, women are supposed to dress modestly, decency and propriety, not with braided hair, not with gold or pearls, or expensive clothes. So,
Nailed it.
at first glance, it seems that Paul is saying women should not wear expensive clothes. At first glance, it seems that Paul is saying you should not wear jewelry. At first glance, it appears that Paul says you shouldn't braid your hair. What are you looking at? That was funny.
Who?
Nothing.
I was looking at Deanna's hair actually.
I know,
was
I
like,
know. She's got a braid in her hair.
hey. It's like a twist. but
Is it
whatever.
just a twist?
It's-
Oh,
yeah, it doesn't
twists
say
are
anything
even
about
worse.
Doesn't say anything about twists.
Oh,
Okay,
Same.
alright. Okay, so, are we in agreement? Are we in agreement that at first glance, it seems that Paul is saying you shouldn't do that?
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
glance. Okay,
But
maybe there's a second glance we ought to take.
isn't it kind of saying like don't focus on the outward appearance?
Yes.
Like focus more on the inward.
Allow me to read this as if reading the original Greek.
Oh goodness. Oh,
Okay? I'm not going to read it in Greek, but I'm going to tell you what the Greek says, okay?
okay. Thank you.
I want women to dress modestly, decency, propriety, not with braided hair or gold or pearls, not with clothes.
What?
Does that change anything, guys? Paul says women should not. Women. Are you tracking with me?
I can't now.
Okay, so Paul's saying, women don't dress themselves with pearls, braids, or clothes. That's what the Greek is. Now, all the English translation they add in expensive clothes. Because clearly Paul is not saying that women should be walking around naked. Clearly Paul is not talking about that. What he's talking about is how you adorn yourself. How you adorn yourself. How do you present yourself? How do you impress others? Do you impress others because of your outward appearance, or do you impress others because of your heart and your deeds? That's what he's talking about. So, Deanna, it's fine for you to twist your hair. You can twist your hair.
Yeah.
It is okay for you to wear makeup. It is okay for you to wear clothes.
Well,
Okay.
good.
That's okay.
And modest.
Alright, now, that leads me to head coverings. Okay? That leads me to head coverings. Which, is that even... I've got it in here somewhere.
You have a head covering in it?
And there goes Amy.
I'm just gonna pull it out of his computer.
Ah, yes. Alright. I do have it. 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians 11. First Corinthians 11. Okay.
Silly.
Okay, so here's what it says about propriety in worship. 1 Corinthians 11. Starting at verse 3. Now I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors God, and every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is just as though her head were shaved. If a woman does not cover her head, she should have her hair cut off, and if it is disgrace for a woman to have her hair cut off or shaved, she should cover her head. A man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Okay. So, here's where I'm going to go with that. Two things. Two things I want us to notice from that. One is, here we have a very distinct rule, very specific rule in the New Testament. Okay? No head coverings. Very specific rule as far as pleasing God. Okay, so this is how you please God. Is by this very specific rule. When we see that in Scripture, in the New Testament, if we see a very specific rule that is stated, and it's saying this is how you please God, when that happens, the first thing we ought to do is go, that sounds like Old Testament. Old Testament was law, right? Old Testament is law. If you want to go to heaven, you must obey the law to a T and all these specific rules. You can wear polyester, you can wear cotton, but you can't wear them at the same time. Don't boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Don't eat shellfish. Don't eat pig. Those were all very specific rules. So in the New Testament, when we see a very specific rule, automatically that ought to be a red flag to us. Like, does that apply to today? Because it's very specific on how to please God. So, it doesn't mean that we throw it out. But what it does do is, it says, maybe there's a principle from this that we're supposed to follow. Not a law to follow, but a principle to follow. Are you tracking with me? What's the difference between following a law and following a principle of a law?
Yes.
One is the top station,
Well, wouldn't a law be like a rule like you gotta do this, but then a principle be kind of like something you should consider? Maybe? I don't know.
Yes.
Like,
So we go to, okay, so there's law, and then there's principle. Okay? Law versus principle. Law, specific. You can break the specific law and be outside of God's will. With principle, it is not specific. It is talking about a idea that you should put yourself under in order to honor God. So to get clear with this, let's talk about braiding your hair. Okay? Back then, braiding your hair was it was not modest. Okay? Back then, it was closer to an Islamic type of environment where the women are very covered, the women are, okay? So if a woman's walking around with braided hair and it's got like gold and stuff, men are going to be drawn away to go, ooh, temptress, ooh, okay? Somebody that turns sexual and all that stuff, okay? It's not modest. Today, does braided hair mean modesty in our culture?
no.
So, in this example, the law would be no braids. Okay? That's what the law would say. No braided hair. But that's not, the principle is what?
Modesty.
Modesty. Principle is modesty. So, when we have something that's very specific, we go, ooh, that sounds like law, but I don't live in the Old Testament anymore. So maybe what Paul is doing is pointing us to a principle, the principle of modesty. Tracking? So, with head coverings. With head coverings, back then, that was a thing. That was a thing. The men did not have a head covering, and the women did. It was a way for men and women to honor their distinct gender role. Make sense? So, is that law for us today? Or is it a principle? Very good, it's a principle. So how do we take that principle of honor your distinct gender role? How do we live by that today?
By the way you dress.
By the way you dress?
Act.
By the way you act?
Your like role in the church.
Role in the church? Very good. Everybody tracking? Sorry, that was a little muddy there for a little bit, but I think we got it good. Alright. Okay, so we got a little bit of time. Alright, not a ton of time, but we got some. Okay, moving on to the next one here. Since we covered the head covering. Okay, as far as women teaching. Is a woman supposed to teach?
Not men. Or adults. Oh, no, I forget. Sorry. I think it's men.
I appreciate your participation.
Men.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's men.
Okay, if women are not supposed to teach men,
No. Well.
let's read our verse again, 1 Timothy 2. Okay, 1 Timothy 2 starting in 11. Woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent. Now, let's look at Acts. Good John, Acts. I believe it's chapter 18. If I remember correctly.
What is it called, Acts?
Acts, chapter 18. Yes, chapter 18. Starting in verse 24. Meanwhile, a Jew named Apollos, a native of Alexandria, came to Ephesus. He was a learned man with a thorough knowledge of the Scriptures. He had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and he spoke with great fervor and taught about Jesus accurately, though he knew only the baptism of John. He began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they invited him to their home and explained to him the way of the Lord more accurately. So, what are some observations about Priscilla and Aquila and explaining to Apollos the way of the Lord more accurately? What do we get from that? What are some observations? Okay, so Prissy
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
and all right. I give up. Priscilla and Aquila. They had more knowledge. And Apollos, whatever. This Apollos, that's how you spell that. Okay, just so you know, Apollos, he learned from the more knowledge. Apollos learned more knowledge. Which means, if I could be so bold as to say that Priscilla and Aquila taught Apollos. Do you notice that? Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. Why is it not wrong?
Because they didn't teach it with
Expound, please.
like, they invited him into their home and cooked him, but they weren't like doing it from a place of leadership in the church.
I think we're onto something here.
They weren't like,
My
you,
goodness.
they weren't like, you need to believe this, like this is the truth, you know, like forcing it on him, I guess, kind of thing. Like this is right and wrong. Yeah, wrong.
Here's another observation. Whose name is mentioned first? The woman's name is mentioned first.
Oh, Aquila
Is the dude.
Oh, I thought they were both girls.
I thought they were.
Oh, I thought it was, oh.
What?
I thought they were both girls too. Let me write that down, like this is a man.
Oh.
Wife, husband.
Boom!
They were like widows or
I
something.
thought
My bad.
they're not married.
I
Are you
said
sorry?
Aquila and Priscilla.
Yes, and your version is just because of the translation, they flipped it. Bible.
Oh.
So they put the man is first?
The interpreters of the Greek took what because in the Greek her name is mentioned first, and that is significant.
So wait,
that
is
does
this
mean
both?
something.
So in all version, the woman is both, but in the end version they switched it because why did they switch it then?
Cause man,
Was it?
I don't know, they probably,
Okay. Okay.
Because they
Man, that
There's
just rocked
some
my
other
world.
interpretive agendas there. Anyway, anyway, it is true though, Priscilla is mentioned first in the Greek. So, so she's mentioned first, which I don't know why. I don't know why Paul mentioned her name first. All I can say is he had reason to. That's all I can say. Because you don't do that in Paul's day and age. You do not do that. So he put her name first for a reason.
Maybe to show, like what we talked about before, that equal in value but not equal in roles. Like he was probably like, she should get value because I don't know.
It could be. It could be that he just wanted to elevate women in this passage. It could be that that's what he wanted to do. It could be because of other reasons unknown to the Corinthians why her name was first. Maybe he did it on purpose for the sake of them. Maybe he did it because Priscilla was the one who did the most talking.
Oh,
Oh, an extrovert.
so that's how the marriage worked out.
So, I'm going to guess that that's what it is. I'm going to guess that that's what it is. Now, does anyone here know a husband and wife where the wife does all the talking?
No.
Okay, you know what? Just shut up. Oh, I talk about this.
So what I want to get at here is what Paul is talking about in 1 Timothy. Keep going back and forth. What Paul is talking about in 1 Timothy, it is of note that if you go to the beginning of chapter 2, there's a little title, which isn't in the original scriptures, but the little title in my Bible says, Instructions on Worship. Do you guys have a little title like that?
On where? Sorry.
At the beginning of chapter
It's about
2,
worship.
Two and
in chapter 2 of 1 Timothy.
oh.
Mine
Pretty rough.
My Bible's not like
Instruction about worship.
that. It says instructions on worship for mine.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Mine said,
Mine said it.
All right.
mine said instructions about worship.
Okay, good.
It says
Okay.
on worship.
Now, that's not in the original scriptures, but the instructions here are about what happens in the gathering of believers. Okay? So he does all kinds of instructions. In the instructions, when you gather together, he does want you to pray for everyone. When you gather together, we want everyone to lift up holy hands in prayer. We don't want any anger or disputing. Women should be modest, not dress in clothes. Women need to be quiet, fully submissive. Don't permit a woman to teach. Adam was formed first. Okay? Then it goes into, in chapter 3, it talks about deacons and elders and what that's supposed to look like in the church body. So let's just say, I'm totally cool. I'm guessing, my personal interpretation, if I were to guess what this means, is that Priscilla and Aquila did take Apollos aside, and Priscilla, under the submissive authority of her husband, taught Apollos the way of the Lord more accurately. And I'm just fine with that. Why? Because this was not in the middle of a church service, where the elders are the ones that are supposed to be teaching. Tracking?
Yeah. It's in their home.
It was in their home. And now, if she was teaching outside of what Aquila would have her speak about, or whatever, outside of his understanding and outside of his leadership, then I would say she was messing up. So, that's how I would interpret that. That's my guess. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And if it is, it's totally fine, because this is talking about propriety in worship, okay, when you are together. Obviously, yeah, we don't do either. Okay, so if women are allowed to, if anybody needs to leave, you're more than welcome to. I'm gonna keep going though. Whoever wants to stay can stay, because I want to say a few more things. This is the last one of the year. Okay.
I'm sure my battery's gonna keep going.
So, is a woman allowed to teach from the pulpit at church?
Yeah. Unless it's in a group of women or children.
Well, females. It depends on like,
Yes,
what it means in the culture. Like if only elders preach from a pulpit, then it would be that she has pastoral, right? But if she's preaching from a pulpit to a bunch of women,
See you in
and that's
cafe,
not the
Ann.
understanding.
Probably won't be up there.
She's not being recognized.
Thanks for coming, Bonnie. Have a good one.
She's not being
See you guys next
recognized
week.
as
If I
it'll
can
be
get
okay, right?
Okay, so here's our big
Can
question.
you reiterate what Amy was saying? Because
Yes.
the camera can't pick up when all that stuff's going on.
Yes, yes. Amy said, well, maybe if it's part of the culture, then they shouldn't. So here's the question. This question. When Paul says, I do not permit women to teach in the congregation, does it fall under the law category? Or does it fall under the principle category?
Principal?
Huh?
I still don't know.
Are we tracking here, guys? Does it fall under law? Like, no, this is absolutely law. A woman cannot teach in the church, to the church body. I do not permit a woman to teach. She must be silent during teaching. Is that law? Or is it principle?
It's principle.
Okay, if that's the principle, what's the principle?
It's a-
Anybody can answer this.
They can't have authority. Spirit, they don't have spiritual authority. We're the congregation.
Okay. So
I got lost.
So the law would be if it's law, then it means women are silent. If it doesn't mean that they have to be silent, but rather there's a principle from back then that we can put into today, we're saying they don't have authority
Over the congregation.
over congregation. Okay. All right. How do you guys feel about that?